Germany's national football coach Julian Nagelsmann has announced that he is stepping down from the job after Germany's early elimination from the 2026 World Cup. Nagelsmann was facing massive public criticism after Germany was sent packing on Monday after losing to outsiders Paraguay in the first knockout round game of the tournament. Nagelsmann met with top officials from the German Football Federation, the DFB, a day earlier, where a decision was made to immediately terminate his contract, which was due to run until 2028. It's reported that he will receive some 7 million euros in compensation for his termination. And in a statement, Nagelsmann apologized for Germany's poor showing at the World Cup and said that after a lot of reflection, he was stepping down. He added, "My main priority has always been the team's success. And now, after this bitter disappointment, the team deserves the chance to start again with a clean slate." Meanwhile, excitement is growing about the main contender to replace Nagelsmann as German coach. That is former Liverpool boss Jürgen Klopp. The German Football Federation has confirmed that it is seeking talks with Klopp about him possibly taking on the top job. The 59-year-old has an impressive track record, clinching 2 German championships with Borussia Dortmund before leading Liverpool to both Premier League and Champions League titles. He left Liverpool 2 years ago to become the global head of soccer at Red Bull. The DFB says that Klopp has already expressed an interest in taking on the role. Let's get more on all of this with my sports colleague, Jonathan Harding. Jonathan, can Jürgen Klopp save German football?
It's the question on everybody's lips. I think that's obviously what everybody is thinking after the news this morning. I think it would be maybe a little foolish to think that he alone can save German football. I think he would also be the first person to say that it's not just him that will be doing the saving. I think there are structural changes that need to be made. I think there are identity questions that need to be asked. But he is the perfect candidate in many people's eyes to start that process. And he's a fatherly type of coach who has a holistic approach to coaching, which I think was very well suited to this group of players at the moment. So he can play a key role, but he won't be the only member of the saving, shall we say, of this Germany team.
Tell us a little bit more about him. He's one of the most successful German coaches of his generation, but he's never managed a national team. So how well do you think his style is going to translate from club football to the international game?
That is another big question. I mean, he's 59 now, so I think he's probably a little more suited to the international rhythm. I mean, he was famous for being very invested in the day-to-day efforts of club coaching. But that's what he said was the reason he had to step away when he stepped away from Liverpool. He was saying, "I've run out of energy. I don't have the ability to do the job every day." So I think that he is probably well suited to international football, but whether that translates onto the field in terms of his playing style, and he was very famous for his heavy metal football. That's what he coined the phrase as for his playing style. I don't know whether that's going to translate to international football. But what I do think is going to work is his approach as a coach. I think this is a young Germany team which has some key players there who are very young. His approach of coaching, his style of coaching, very fatherly, as I mentioned earlier, is this holistic approach, which I think is really important. That, I think, will translate extremely well to coaching on the international stage. So if he can get that right, then he'll be on the path to success. But there are obviously still questions about playing style, of course.
The DFB says that Klopp has already signaled a willingness to take over. So what happens next? What's standing in the way?
I think there are some contractual obligations that need to be fulfilled. His current employer, Red Bull, are quite insistent that they're not going to let him go for free. By all accounts, there is a clause in his contract, either a formal clause or a gentleman's agreement, that should the Germany job come up, that he will be available to take it and that Red Bull won't stand in his way. That being said, they are well aware that in Jürgen Klopp, they have one of the most prized coaches in the world, so they're not going to let him go for free. The DFB will have to do some tough negotiating in this regard, and it's not an easy situation for them to be in financially, given they've just had to pay Julian Nagelsmann, as we've just heard at the top of this report, quite a large compensation fee. So a little bit of tricky negotiation to go on there for the DFB, but I'm convinced that they will secure Jürgen Klopp's signature at some point.
What do you think went so wrong for Julian Nagelsmann? I mean, he had largely been seen as the future of German coaching.
Yeah, I think he did a great job at Euro 2024. I think that's what makes this disappointment, this shock, this turnaround so much of a surprise. I think in the last 2 years, he's made some mistakes tactically. I think communication-wise, ever since the middle of last year, he's made some missteps. One of the most famous ones is obviously with Dennis Undav, a player that he publicly criticized and then apologized for that. And then it turned out that Undav was one of the most impressive players at the recently finished World Cup. So he hasn't got everything right himself. He's been a bit unfortunate with injuries that he has nothing to do with, and that's just bad luck for him. But I think he'd be the first to admit that he hasn't got everything right on the pitch or even off it. I think even some of his behavior on the sidelines during the World Cup has been verging on very inappropriate. So I think that's probably the main factor, really. His communication, his tactical decisions, and some of his behavior have put him in a position where Germany have got real no choice to make any other decision but to let him go.
Beyond Nagelsmann, Germany has now suffered 3 disappointing World Cup campaigns in a row with 3 different coaches. Are there deeper problems in German football?
Definitely. I think the fact that we've had 3 different coaches indicates that. It wouldn't just be the case that we've had a bad coach and therefore we need to make a change and everything's gone well afterwards. If that had been the case, Germany would have done better at this World Cup and even the one before in Qatar 4 years ago. So I think there are deep-rooted issues. I'm not sure it's necessarily a youth football issue. There have been changes made there recently. I think the fruits of those changes will come to light in the years ahead. I think more than anything, it's an identity issue, it's a player quality issue, and it's a character issue. I mean, one of the most impressive or scenes that left a mark on me was when Germany lost on penalties. Captain Joshua Kimmich was walking around looking for penalty takers, figuring out who was prepared to take a penalty. And that's just not something that is very familiar when it comes to Germany. You'd expect the kind of characters who are strong enough to take control and take responsibility. So I think there are much bigger questions, maybe even existential questions to ask of German football. And obviously not just Jürgen Klopp is going to be the one to answer those.
DW's Jonathan Harding, thank you.